Hello and welcome to the Solomon podcast, where leaders can come for wise insight. I'm Sophie Preston, and today we're diving into a theme that really sits at the heart of healthy leadership, and that's gratitude. So, we talk a lot in leadership about clarity, about influence, about emotional intelligence. But there's also this growing body of research that shows that gratitude might actually be one of the most powerful and also underrated executive skills. Psychologically, neurologically, and relationally, gratitude can change the way that leaders perceive reality. So, to unpack that with me, I've got Dr. Jessica Rimmer, CEO of Solomon Strategic Advisors and the author of The Purpose Formula. So, Jessica is known for actually translating complex theory into practical leadership insights that we can use. So, we're going to explore why gratitude is so essential for leaders and how leaders can cultivate it in a way that's real to them. Okay. Hi, Jessica. How are you today?
Hi, Sophie. So good to see you. I'm doing so well, and I'm super excited to have this conversation with you.
When you hear the word gratitude in the context of executive leadership, what comes to mind for you personally?
It's interesting. I love that you're putting this in the context of executive leadership in this time of the year. And it's not the trite, okay, be more grateful, go through the motions of gratitude. But when I think about leadership and gratitude, I think about what we what we do and what we allow, right? That's what culture is. And so when leaders are grateful and they cultivate a habit of noticing things that they're grateful for. Man, I'm so grateful that my team members are collaborative and we say it out loud. What we notice grows. And so I think it's that way with our team. What we speak out into the team dynamic, we get more of. So we get more of what we celebrate, but also our brains for leaders, it's our brains don't necessarily believe what's true. It believes what it repeatedly thinks about. And so when we run on the track of gratitude rather than, I guess we could say ingratitude is its opposite, but maybe judgment, maybe criticism, maybe only getting in spaces of problem solving, what will happen for leaders is we can focus on gaps instead of the gains. And I can get there, and gratitude is the unlock. And so I think there's so many ways that cultivating gratitude as a habit and as a pattern of our leadership matters, but it's also just an unlocking mechanism in our minds.
So, then how does gratitude help leaders to navigate complexity or, let's say, conflict differently? What might be that switch?
So stress kind of narrows our focus. If there's a threat involved, then we focus in on the threat. And when we're in actual danger, or we've got a looming important deadline, like we've got a board meeting coming and we have to get ready for that board meeting, it's really good for us to focus in on a specific priority, get a lot of work done. But when we stay in that hyper focused threat mindset as a leader, that narrowed aperture actually clouds our ability to think creatively. So
Mm.
creativity by nature is an open-minded experience. And so again, like that unlock, gratitude is one of those things that gets us back into open-mindedness. And so when I think about how it helps us navigate conflict or navigate stress, it is about that opening back up the aperture.
Mm.
What am I taking in? What am I seeing and allowing into the picture? Only focused on problems or only focused on things that need to be fixed. I'm narrowing in the way that I tend to see the world, and I'm missing a lot that's actually in the picture, but I'm not seeing.
That's good. So that kind of leads me then to my next question, which is you've coached a lot of leaders in high stakes environments. So what happens when you notice a leader has lost that ability to carry gratitude with them?
I think what gets lost is hope. What a leader carries with them in terms of the energy that they introduce into the team dynamic has a direct impact on performance. And so when we lose gratitude, I think that we lose hope, and that's what happens for our team.
Yeah. So then how important is gratitude for overall organizational culture?
Yeah, I think about, when we're little, we're taught to say please and thank you, right? We're taught to say please and thank you. And that's like, this is what it looks like to be kind of a mature person. And then we grow up and we are the adult. And sometimes I think we forget to say please and thank you. And we take for granted our teams. we take for granted the people that we're spending probably the most time, with in our lives. And so I think remembering to say please and thank you, it's not just the basics. It's like we never grow past the basics. We can't
Mm.
we can't forget that we never achieve or get into a space where saying please and thank you isn't like a relevant and important, I think, hygiene aspect of leadership. So
Yeah.
remembering to be polite and remembering that when we lose that, we actually are losing a sense of honor and humanity in the way that we lead.
Yeah, that's good. So we talk a lot about personality and how that can influence how you show up. What is the experience like on the other side of you? Talk to me a little bit about how that impacts those tips on how you can lead with gratitude. How might the five voices or personality affect how you lead with gratitude?
Well, people want to be appreciated for different things. If we think about encouragement, everybody's doing a really good job. Like, that's a positive thing to say, but it's not necessarily empowering.
Yeah.
If I said to you, Sophie, I just want you to know you are bringing a level of professionalism and excellence to the way that we're doing our marketing, and you're thinking about it so collaboratively. And I see your superpower at work, right? Like now, not only do you know what to keep doing because I'm
Yeah.
saying thank you and good job about something specific, but you also feel like she sees me. I
Mm,
see you. And that, I think, that connectedness is the thing that we have to cultivate with our team. And when people feel seen, when they feel connected, well, when we do have to give tough feedback, and it may be in the same breath, thank you. And like
yeah.
we have some opportunities to improve. It doesn't have to be distinct and separate like a robot.
Mm.
But when people know that you see me, you're for me, that opens the pathway to, and let's keep getting better.
That's great because I think we naturally have like I think Kim Scott in Radical Candor calls it the BS meter that's inborn in us. And when we detect insincerity, that BS meter, ding, 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 kind of triggers. So it is important that when people give that gratitude, it can be specific, but also sincere.
When we have a tool that we use sincerely, it's very different than when we have a tool that we're using by going through the motions. And listen, sometimes we got to go through the motions, but if the body of our work towards a person is sincere, then like they're going to see the effort. Or if I'm trying to use a tool to actually learn, how do I appreciate a guardian maybe differently than a nurturer. So the opportunity to have language to understand how to connect differently, even if I'm doing it clunkily, if I'm
Mm,
doing it sincerely, it
yeah.
is received that way. I think sometimes they view tools and the use of tools or personality systems as like, that's not authentic, when in fact it can be very, very authentic. Like it's about the heart. And I think back to when I graduated from high school, there was a practice of like, you write thank you notes for every person who gives you anything, no matter if you liked it or not. It kind of was something your mom made you do, right? Like, this is what polite people do. But there's a difference between, "Hey, thank you for that gift card," and, "I'm so grateful that you took the time to put something in the mail for me. I'm so
Mm,
grateful that, like, you marked this moment that was important to me," right? Like, there's a difference of, like, saying, "Hey, here was the impact," or, "I see the intent," or, like, going further than saying, like, "Thank you for the Walmart gift card, period, Jessica Patterson," right? Like,
mm,
that is going through the motions versus I'm actually really trying to take this practice of thank you card writing into a space where you know that I really am thankful. And so I'm going to take that extra effort. There's an opportunity with tools to have the kind of the bumpers on of like, here's how you can approach your team and acknowledge their superpowers and recognize that like pioneers want to be recognized for something achievement
yeah.
oriented when nurturers want to be recognized for something different, like, you are a valuable member. Like the way that you shape the experiences that we have together as a team, it makes a difference. And it's not less important than, Pioneers Achievement Gold Medal. So, I don't mean to be like stereotyping, but I think the point is we have tools, we should use tools, but
Mm,
we can't. Sincerity is something that we have to choose in gratitude.
yeah.
Like, we have to choose to make that effort to be authentic with it and to go, okay, this is not just something to rush through. This matters. And what I invest in my team in terms of sincerity and gratitude and authenticity, that actually has a reciprocal loop back to like, am I going to get sincerity and gratitude back as well? Not that we
Yeah,
should for that reason, but it does
right.
impact. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you're someone that starts to practice that, and you might be clunky. I love that word, at the beginning, but practice does cultivate that permanence. And then you start to see that reward. And again, you're not doing it for that reason, but then you're motivated to carry on doing it because life seems to improve. People around you seem to improve, those dynamics seem to improve. So, what advice would you give to a leader that perhaps the team culture has slipped into some of that toxic positivity? And there's this pretending that everything is fine. What might be your advice there for how they can kind of reset and get back to that grounded gratitude?
I'm a pretty direct communicator. And so I think sometimes it's like being authentic, like taking your own communication style and being authentic with it. So going like, hey guys, this could be me. Like I could be picking up on something that isn't here. Here's what I'm experiencing in the team. It feels like all we're doing is celebrating not real wins. And so I'm picking up toxic positivity. Is that true? That's one approach. Another approach, and one I probably take more often, is like, I might ask somebody else, hey, give me some feedback. Am I leading in ways like, are there things that I'm doing as a leader that are creating false positivity, that are creating like an unwillingness to have conflict at the table, that are creating this like everything is awesome environment when I don't think that's true? What am I doing that might be contributing to that? What do you think I could do differently? And that's an approach that I've taken probably more often than not, is like somebody with a very different personality than me that I think would probably tell me the truth. Help me see. Help me see. There's got to be something that I could do differently to really break through this kind of false bottom in the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So, how can C suite cultivate gratitude into the systems and processes? So, we're talking the day to day operations, the way that we behave inside of an organization. So, it's not just the personal thank yous and the way that we express it from ourselves, but now integrated into the way we do business is gratitude.
Yeah. Maybe a cousin to gratitude is celebration. So, like, what are we celebrating and rewarding in the organization? So, our incentive systems, meaning like our compensation systems,
Yeah.
our salaries, our promotion ladders, those are like systemic things, right? They're organizational structural things that we can either use intentionally to promote the values and the behaviors of the organization, or we can use accidentally, and then it, sort of creates confusion around what it is that we expect. How do we want to show up together? That's another way to think about culture, is like the way that we do things around here. um, I would take a very serious look at like, how are we promoting people? Are we promoting people purely on technical acumen, or are we promoting people who are like people-centered leaders who are doing a good job in demonstrating cultural values, leading in a way that, promotes the development of other people and that they know what they're doing. So that IQ, EQ, PQ, like, are we really looking at the whole core of the leader, or are we just hiring and promoting the very best salesperson becomes the sales manager? So I think we really have to take a look at like, who are we promoting, and then incentive and compensation, what are we rewarding? So if we only reward, just like hard metrics, we only reward sales with commission, which actually is great. Like, you're driving the right behavior for the salesperson, but then like, what are we bonusing? And how are we using bonus compensation to actually promote the kinds of behaviors that we want to see? So if we're constantly promoting people or rewarding people monetarily who are underperforming, or who are jerks to the team, then we're not sending a message that says, here we value people who are team centric and who are pulling their weight. So it's interesting because when you put it in the frame of gratitude, it's not like you would think about bonus pools for underperformers sending a message that we don't value or appreciate high performers. but that's exactly the message that it sends.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to think about in those ways that we're affirming and rewarding people,
Yeah.
what is the message associated with that affirmation, and are we driving the right behavior with that?
Oh, that's great. So I think a lot of people tune in to hear about Dr. Jessica Rimmer too. So I'm going to ask you a couple of more personal questions. Um, when you're feeling under pressure, what practices re-anchor you in gratitude?
Sophie, it is so funny that you're asking this question right now because I've been in this space for like several days where I just feel so much pressure and why and what's going on. I went to physical therapy yesterday and I was talking this out with my physical therapist. It is about like staying aware to the pressure and then going like how can I get in that gain mindset? So looking back on a year and celebrating what has been
Um,
accomplished and not viewing that as like a waste of time, but it allows me to see the whole picture, right? It opens the aperture. So, one really practical thing that I do at the end of every year is I will look through my photos from the year to remember the moments.
oh,
Like,
yeah.
because I don't always remember the moments, or I'll look back through my calendar and I'll go like, actually in real life, no matter how much pressure I'm feeling and how that tempts me to focus in on problems to solve, how can I look at the whole picture of last year and notice the moments that were really good and kind of like, okay, that's the whole picture. Like, no
Yeah.
matter how much pressure I feel right now, no matter how much I want to focus on next year and focus on achievement, which tends to be like annual cycle wise, that tends to be a way I will feel around this time of the year is like,
Yeah.
okay, focus on next year. What are my goals? I can't get behind the 8 ball and not have goals. So, like that practice of looking backwards and reflecting through pictures and calendar, like that's tactically how I get into the felt space of gratitude. I went to dinner with a couple of friends last night and we laughed and laughed and laughed and like I
Yes.
just woke up this morning so grateful. So it's like sometimes we just have to do the thing that's good for us because that will reset that that access to gratitude.
Oh, that's fantastic. Can you share a story of a time that you witnessed this in action?
It is normal to cycle in and out. It is not normal to always stay in such a positive headspace that you're like nearly inhuman. And we are going to visit the pit of despair from time to time. And maybe gratitude is the ladder out. Even disciplining ourselves to go through that process. And that's the conversation that I was having with my physical therapist yesterday is like the discipline of celebration, the discipline of gratitude. And he was like, "Why would you call it a discipline?" And I'm like, "Well, this is a discipline. I don't want to be here." And he's laughing. He's like, "You don't want to be here?" And I was like, "No, not at all." But sometimes we have to do the thing that we know is good for us because if we don't, then we stay stuck. And so we
Mm,
stay stuck in the cycle of bad headspace or continuing to get back the energy that we're putting out to our team and wondering what's wrong with them rather than
yeah.
what can I change with me.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the fact that you talk about the pit of despair because Jeremy Kubicek talked about this funny story how the pit of despair is like when you walk into your workplace, instead of going to your desk and sitting down or going to the water cooler and saying hi to everyone, you take a detour down to the basement. And
Mhm.
then you spend the day down in the basement and you look around you and you're like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And you're talking to the other people that are also down there. And so then it's this choice that you have to make of, "Hey, I don't want to talk to y'all today. I don't want to take a detour down to the basement and be in the group of misery because we know them. They walk among us. And instead, I'm going to climb that ladder, even though my upper body strength sucks. And I'm going to go to the water cooler and have those conversations and just start that discipline of like, no, I rerouted this way. I'm going to reroute back.
Executives are not immune from this. Like we can pretend we are immune from it and be like, everything is awesome. And I'm pretending. And I'm not a lay it all out there type of leader. I don't think that that's healthy. I think emotions are contagious. And so
Yeah.
sometimes my trip to the basement is the indicator. I got to do something different because I'm feeling the need to hide. I'm
Um,
feeling that like pull into the pit and, and not show up with the kind of energy that I want to. And sometimes I'm like, I'm protecting the team in that when it's like, hey, maybe actually the ladder out is gratitude or celebration or reflection, or like the ladder out is getting my feet back in that grounded practice rather than like hiding in the pit of despair and hoping for, that to go
Yeah.
away.
I think that's a really good story to end it because when you practice outflow and you see the inflow and life is so great, it can get addicting. So I do witness those executives who are like, this is awesome. Look how, gracious I'm being and how engaging I'm being. And I love what's coming back. And then all of a sudden, culture changes because someone leaves, which is a normal thing, or something happens and it creates a bit of a ripple effect. And then that leader has a choice to make, revert back or pursue through. And yeah, those walls, it's like if you're a runner about mile 3, you're gonna hit a wall. You have a choice. Stop,
Yep.
turn back, carry on through it.
And you can train past that wall and there will be another wall, right? Like that's the cycle nature of leadership and of being a person, like being a human
Yeah,
in leadership.
love it. Thank you so much for your wisdom and insights. Really appreciate the conversation today.
Thank you, Sophie.